Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Shoski service for May. Recently, I've been thinking back about some lessons I received from Reverend Ichijo Ogawa, who is a prominent teacher in our Higashi Honganji, and he has been here a few times many years ago, not lately, unfortunately. It's been a while that I had the opportunity to listen to him, and I'm convinced that his understanding of Buddhism is so important, especially for us living here in the United States. We are, of course, a Jodo Shinshu temple, and our understanding of Buddhism is based upon the interpretation of our founder, Shinran Shonin. There are some basic differences between Shinran's interpretation and appreciation of the Buddha Dharma and the more traditional interpretations from the time of the Buddha. The biggest difference, perhaps, is regarding practice. For a Buddhist to move towards enlightenment, what is essential is that one practice, or one, practice the lessons that we receive in Buddhism. And so it's for a Buddhist to move towards enlightenment, what is essential is that one practice. It's kind of like becoming a good baseball player. In order to be good, you have to practice. Likewise with Buddhism. But Shinran, and to be accurate, many before him, said he is incapable of practice, of polishing himself in the traditional way, working diligently to suppress the ego, working diligently to become wise and compassionate. So our challenge is to understand why there are such differences and to reconcile Shinran's Buddhism with the Buddhism that has existed since the time of the Buddha. And the reason why Reverend Ogawa's teaching is so important to us is that he is a scholar of traditional general Buddhism and can explain to us why Shinran's understanding is both unique and truly genuine form of Buddhism. One of the things he has said over and over is that the essence of Buddhism is the understanding that life is simply and solely a combination of karmic causes and conditions. The term that he uses, dependent or origination. In other words, nothing exists separately and permanently of and by itself. The example he often uses is this setting here and now. I am Noriaki Ito, and I think basically I know who I am, but in reality, living in the ever-changing flow of impermanence, at this moment I am a minister and I'm the speaker of the Dharma talk, but that's only true because you are here to listen. So if you were not here at this moment, I would not be the minister delivering the Dharma talk. So we are like mutually dependent upon each other today. Dependent origination means that at every moment of our lives, we're being defined and redefined depending on the particular causes and conditions, the circumstances of the moment. This is what is called the teaching of anatman, or muga in Japanese, the teaching that there is no substantial self that is not subject to the constant and continuous change of impermanence. In other words, there is no soul or spirit or self that we're born with and that remains with us until we die. And according to such teachings as Hinduism, reincarnates or transmigrates from one life to the next. This is also the teaching of sunyata, or emptiness, that was taught by the Buddha and interpreted by so many teachers over history. Stephen Batchelor, in his book, Buddhism Without Beliefs, uses the example of a ballpoint pen. We have here a very ordinary, well, I don't have one right now, but we have a very ordinary ballpoint pen, and most anyone will recognize it and label it as a ballpoint pen. But how about if we take it apart? If we were to take the cap off Is it still a ballpoint pen? Of course it is. But what if I were to unscrew the pen and remove the ink refill? Is it still a ballpoint pen? Well, that's debatable. It's still a ballpoint pen, but it no longer fulfills the role of a pen because there is no tip to write with and no ink. If we were to look at all the parts, none of them by themselves would be called ballpoint pens, but put back together, the sum of the parts makes it into a ballpoint pen. Now this pen is a little unusual. Well, I don't have it with me, but because it lights up. So depending on the need at the time, it can be a ballpoint pen or it can become a small flashlight. The same with us, he says. We define ourselves as Noriaki Ito or Steve Nakasona or Steve Murata, and we can basically say some things about me or them to describe who we are. But Buddhism would say, from moment to moment, we are in constant flux. We're totally independent on the conditions, the circumstances of the moment. With my robe on and in the temple, I'm Reverend Ito, but with my robe off and somewhere else, say on vacation in another country or somewhere, I'm a tourist, and it's only because I have a passport that identifies me that I'm still Noriaki Ito. At home, I'm the neighbor who lives down the street. Or, depending on circumstances, I'm like, say, Mika's dad or Gaku's dad or Kisa's dad. So why is all of this important? That's the question I've been asking myself all these years. Whenever I hear the term emptiness, it is important primarily because it's our ego that's always kind of getting us in trouble. I've been reading a novel recently where one of the main characters was the daughter of rich and powerful parents. And she grew up basically kind of like a princess with maids at her beck and call. At least that part of the story takes place maybe 1,000 years ago. But things change. They lose their house. Eventually she loses her parents and is forced to live with a maid's family. Things get rougher and rougher, and she worsens her situation because she can't forget the past. And she can't accept the fact that she can no longer live like a princess. On the other hand, the maid, who also was originally from a powerful family, is first sold as a slave. And then when she finally gains her freedom, she is still relegated to living in a menial job of a maid to a rich family. She has accepted the impermanence of life and is able to make the best of every miserable situation and to find a measure of happiness and meaning through her wisdom. Recently, I officiated a funeral service for probably one of the oldest, this was some time ago, one of the oldest members of our Higashonganji Sangha, and she hasn't been active for many years, ever since she entered the Keiro nursing home. So this woman passed away at the age of 101, and I remember her as a person who always had such a wonderful smile and positive attitude about life. She always seemed to be enjoying herself whenever I saw her. What's amazing about that is that she had such a difficult life, especially the first 50 years or so. She was born in 1905 in a town in Aichi Prefecture in Japan, and at the age of 22, she was married to her husband. And soon after she was married, her in-laws who were farming in the United States called for him to come and help them. She already had given birth to her first child and because her husband had younger siblings, she was asked to stay in Japan to look after their house and property and take care of her husband's younger siblings. He did apparently return once in a while, and that's why she gave birth to two other daughters in Japan, but always with the hope that soon her husband would be able to bring them to the United States so that they can be reunited as a family. But then World War II began and she could no longer communicate with him. She and the family lived in Japan, which became the battlefield of the war in the Pacific, and he was interned at Manzanar. When he received his citizenship in 1957, the family was finally able to join him in the States. So they were married, they were basically forced to live apart for 3 decades, and yet her children and grandchildren cannot remember a time when she was angry or depressed. She always had a smile on her face and a very positive outlook on life. One of the granddaughters reminisced about a meal that she had with her grandparents when she was small. The grandfather was apparently pretty picky, and so when he started to eat, he said to his wife, "This food tastes terrible," to which she said to him with a smile on her face, you're absolutely right, this food tastes terrible," as she continued to enjoy her dinner. Now, if I was the cook of that meal, my immediate response would be, "Well then, you don't have to eat it, do you?" And that would start a fight and everyone would be miserable. She, on the other hand, was able to suppress her ego and just accept the criticism and go on with her life. Recently, we were eating dinner and Janet cut up some peaches for dessert. Well, this was not recently, maybe a long time ago, but one of our kids, and this is when we still had kids at home, and said, "Geez, these peaches aren't very good." And I had a few slices, and they weren't really great, a little mushy, but they tasted all right to me. And I did keep my mouth shut, though. But it got to me thinking about how particular we are. We've all tasted, say, a tasty watermelon, and so we tend to measure all of the watermelons we eat against that one really tasty one that we remember. So most of the time, we're going to be disappointed. But when we really think about it, fruits and vegetables don't exist in this world so that human beings can eat them. That's what we assume, but that's not necessarily true. If we continue to live thinking that the world revolves around us, around me, then we're always going to be disappointed and we're never going to be satisfied, never really appreciate the conditions of our lives. When I think about this woman, her name was Mrs. Kume, somewhere along the line, and maybe it was because of all of the hardships that she had to endure, she learned how to live effectively. She learned how to accept everything that came her way and to change her perspective from one of self-centeredness to one of appreciation for all of the support that enabled her to live such a happy and meaningful and long life. This, I believe, is the reason why the teaching of anatman, or emptiness, is considered to be such an important lesson in Buddhism. This is something that I remember learning from the late Mrs. Kume, who was such a wonderful member of our temple. Well, these are some of the things that I've been kind of thinking about lately, and just trying to enjoy life and to try to appreciate the everyday life that we have, and to be able to share that life with everyone that we live together with, not only with our family and friends, but with everyone that we live together with every other living things as well. So thank you all for joining us this morning, and hope that you have a wonderful rest of today's Sunday. Thank you.